We're now in the midst of the holiday season in the secular world, and it's critical for us to think about the difference between why we celebrate our holidays and why the secular world celebrates their holidays. You see, when it comes to the secular world, they're commemorating an event, they're remembering something that happened in their past, and every single year on that same date, they commemorate what happened on that date. When it comes to the Jewish people, however, there's another aspect that we need to think about. And that is that we're not just commemorating something that happened in our past a long time ago. But when that event took place, when that miracle happened, there was a certain spiritual energy in the air. And every single year, when we think about and we commemorate that event, that same spiritual energy comes back. And it's our obligation to tap into that energy and to bring it into our lives. And every single Chag has its own unique energy. What's the unique energy of Hanukkah? There are a couple, and I'd like to share with you one idea. We know that when a Jew lights the Chanukiah, ideally, he is supposed to light the Chanukiah at the entrance of his home. And therefore, when a person goes in and out of his home, he's surrounded by mitzvos. On the one side, he has the mezuzah, and on the other side, he has the Chanukiah. I once heard another beautiful explanation as to why we want to have the mezuzah on one side and the Chanukiah on the other side. And that is that a Jew could have two approaches in his life. One approach is that he'll act like a Jew outside of his home. He'll speak like a Jew, he'll dress like a Jew, and when a person looks at you, you could tell you're a Jew. You could tell that person's a Jew outside of his home. And yet, when he comes back inside his home and he closes the front door, there's no difference between that person and a secular person living next door. The way the person talks, the way the person acts, there's no difference. And the opposite approach is that when the Jew leaves his home, he's a little bit embarrassed, he's a little bit scared to show that he's a Jew, and therefore he'll walk around with a baseball hat on top of his kippah, he'll talk like his coworkers talk, and you can't really tell that he's a Jew. But when he comes back home, so then he takes the baseball hat off and he shows off his kippah proudly, and he speaks like a Jew and he looks like a Jew inside of his home. Comes the Chanukiah and tells us that both of these approaches are totally wrong. You see, a Jew needs to feel comfortable and proud that he is a Jew both inside of his home and outside of his home. And therefore, when a Jew leaves his home, he sees the Chanukiah on his right side. And what he remembers for a second is that the Yevanim didn't want to kill us like Haman. The Yevanim were okay with us remaining in this world, but they didn't want us to act like Jews. They didn't want us to be distinct from them. They wanted us to be just like them. And therefore, when a Jew leaves his home, he remembers that I am different. I need to look different. I need to act differently than everyone else around me. And then when a Jew comes back home after a long day of work, he kisses the mezuzah, and for 1 second he remembers that the home I'm about to enter is supposed to be a Jewish home, which means that there are different values that are in my home, different than maybe my secular next door neighbor. And that's what the mezuzah reminds a person. And therefore, one idea which we can take with us on Hanukkah is to remember that we need to be proud to be Jewish. We need to represent that Judaism, both outside of our home, and more importantly, I would say, when we come inside our home, to our families and to our children, to show them that we are proud to be Jewish, and therefore, we have different values. We live differently. I wish everyone a Hanukkah Sameach.